Hi, if there's anybody there, can you let me know that you can hear me? Oh, thank you, Jill. You can hear me. Right, I'm just going to jump straight in. This is the live stream that I was going to try and do last week. Yes, somebody else can hear me as well. Brilliant. So, last week I tried to start to do this live stream on cutting fabric, and as some of you will know, my machine wouldn't load my mat, and I don't know why. I cleaned the mat, I had a bit of a poke around under the rollers, and everything has been fine since. So keep your fingers crossed and let's hope that this one will work today. So basically what I'm going to show you are just a few products that I've got that I've collected over the years that I've tried in the past to cut fabric with. I'm not a great big applique user, but if I do want to use fabric to put onto other fabrics, I tend to use heat and bond. Heat and bond comes in a light and an ultra. As far as I'm aware, the colours on the packaging I think are fairly universal. So this is in a purple packaging and this is the heat and bond light. Then in the red packaging you've got heat and bond ultra. This one you can just iron on and it will stick onto your fabrics and you can sew it and it won't move. The light hasn't got as much adhesive on the back of it, so you can sew through this and it shouldn't affect your needle or gum up your sewing needle. Then we've got the other product that I've tried that I've just bought loose off the internet in the past, and this is called Wonder Under, and I think it's also known as Bonder Web. Again, it's a similar type of thing. It's a paper with an adhesive backing and you iron it on, remove the paper and iron it onto your project. So that's Wonder Under or Bonder Web. The other product that I've got is the one that came with the Brothers ScanNCut machine. This is their fabric applique sheet. All these products all work more or less the same, but I'm just going to cut them all today, hopefully, and show you. And then the final product is freezer paper. Now this comes, normally I think you can buy this in supermarkets in boxes, a bit like you buy your aluminium foil or your cling wrap, that kind of thing. When I bought this is a few years old now, but when I bought this I couldn't find it, so I bought it loose, and I think I got it through eBay or Amazon. This one works slightly differently. This one has a dull and a shiny side, but this isn't a glue as such. So I'm going to deal with that one separately. So the first ones that I'm going to cut today are the samples that I showed you all from last week. I've got the same fabric, the same pink fabric as it was last week with the backs already peeled off, and then I obviously had to abort the demo. So I've got a piece of fabric with a piece of each of these ironed onto the back. So I'm just going to get my mat, and basically what you do, how this started was a piece of fabric, let's get it the right round, piece of fabric, I ironed this onto the back and then I peeled it off. And you probably won't be able to see, but this is the heat and bond light, and it's got a very light covering of adhesive on it. So I'm going to put it adhesive side down on the mat and just burnish it down so I get all the air bubbles out and it's nice and flat. So that's heat and bond light. The next one is heat and bond ultra. Again, I've already got the backing peeled off from last week. This one you can probably see is a lot shinier. This has a lot more adhesive. I will have a look for questions in a few minutes, but I just want to try and get this demonstration done for you. The next one I'm going to put on the mat is the Wonder Under or Bonder Web. Again, it's adhesive side down to the mat. And the last one is the Brother contact sheet that we get. Again, this has got, you can probably see this, it's a lot shinier. This is more like Heat and Bond Ultra. There's a lot more adhesive on the back of this. I've never used this at all. This piece that I've just shown you is the original piece that came with my machine, and I've never cut it. So I've got my regular mat and I've got the 4 pieces of fabric on it. Going to hopefully load this mat now. I'm going to come into the patterns and I'm just going to choose a random pattern. I think I'll go for a flower. I want to cut the same pattern because I want to see how each one of the backings performs, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to choose a flower. I'm going to make it a bit smaller, make it about 2.5 inches in height, say OK, and I want 4 in total. So now I'm going to do a background scan, and then I'm going to put each one of those flowers on the piece of fabric. So if anybody's got any quick questions, I'll see if I can see them and answer them before we go any further. Okay, I can't see any questions, so I'm just going to crack on. So I'm going to come into the settings and change the background to a darker colour so that hopefully I can see each of these 4 pieces of fabric. And I'm just going to grab each one of these flowers and put them on the fabric. Now, I think before everything went wrong last week, somebody asked me about the contact sheet that you can also get with Brother. Southern California, Glenda, is it? Brilliant. Wow, you're up early. All machine models will do this, yes. The person that's just asked me that question. As I was saying, there is a contact sheet. I think they call it a high adhesive contact sheet that you usually get with your machine. I don't actually know where mine is. I've never used it at all. But basically, from what I can remember, you peel off the backing and you stick it on your mat and it stays there. I don't cut enough fabric, to be honest, to warrant using a mat with an adhesive sheet. Maybe when this one gets past its best, I mean, this is over 3 years old now, maybe I'll give this one up and try it. But the principles I'm going to show you today should work the same whether you're using any of these iron-on backings or whether you're using the adhesive that you stick to a mat, and that with that you can cut fabric without a backing. But as I said, I'm also going to show you how you can cut fabric without a backing using freezer paper. So I'll just tell you that on my machine for fabric, I normally have my blade set at 4. I have my cut pressure, which is on page 2, found from within the wrench icon, on a 4. And I have my cut speed on 5. Now, you can do a test cut. Not all these blades are all set the same. So the settings I use on mine may not be right for you, or may be too harsh for you. You may end up cutting through your fabric and your mat, I don't know. So there is a test cut facility. I've shown how to do that in previous videos. If you put a test cut shape on, it will cut a tiny little shape wherever you position it on your fabric, and it will always cut your test cut first, so you can try a test cut. So I've got blade 4, cut speed 5 and cut pressure 4, and I've got each, I'm going to say OK, and I've got hopefully each of these flowers positioned on each of these 4 bits of fabric. So I'm going to say cut, and then we'll see how we get on. So any questions while this is cutting? Okay, I'm just going to lift up the fabric in the corner and just see if it has cut through before I unload it, because if it hasn't, I can always send it back through to cut again. How old is my blade? Is it new? No, it's not new. This blade is the blade that I got with this machine, and I've had this machine since March. But I have cut fabric with my previous blade, and I don't tend to keep I don't tend to keep blades for fabric and paper. I just use my blade for everything, whether that's card, paper, fabric, vinyl, anything. You will get the same results. I've cut fabric with an old blade and got the same results. So I'm just going to unload and push the machine out of the way for now. So the first one, hope you can see all the 4 pieces. The first one was Heat and Bond Light. So I'm going to peel that off. And there is the flower. And that's got the light adhesive backing on it. So I could press that onto fabric and then I could sew round it. Somebody's just asked me what happened about my mat. I did say at the beginning, all as I did was cleaned the mat on both sides, cleaned down the sides on both sides, and then I literally had a little bit of a poke around under the rollers, and it's been fine, touch wood, ever since. So that's why I said keep your fingers crossed for this today, and we'll see what happens. So that's the first one, and as you can see, perfectly cut. So I'll put that there. So the next one was Heat and Bond Ultra. And again, you know this is the Ultra because there's a lot more adhesive, it's a lot shinier, and it feels a bit thicker. So this is the flower for the Ultra. Trying to read the comments and show you the flowers at the same time. So that's the Ultra. The next one was the Wonder Under, or Bonder Web, I think it's called. Now, from looking at this, this seems to be more, like I said at the beginning, this seems to be more like a Heat and Bond Light. There's not as much adhesive on the back of this one. And again, perfectly cut. And then the last one is the Brother ScanNCut applique sheet that comes with your machine. And again, perfectly cut all the way through. This one, just from the feel of it, looking at the adhesive that's on the back, I would say is more like Heat and Bond Ultra, maybe not quite as heavily adhesive, somewhere between the light and the Ultra, but again, cut out perfectly. So that's those 4. Now, I'm going to show you an alternative method using freezer paper. So with this one, basically, I took a piece of freezer paper that was twice the size of the fabric, and I've literally put the fabric wrong side down to the shiny side of the freezer paper, and I've folded the paper over so I've got dull sides looking up at me, and ironed it. So I've literally encased the fabric within this piece of freezer paper. Now I'm going to stick this down on the mat as it is, complete with paper. I'm going to give it a good burnish so that it hopefully sticks and doesn't move. Just going to move these out of the way and bring the machine back in. Now with this one, I'm going to take my blade up slightly higher because obviously I've got more media to cut through. I've got the, you know, the 2 extra pieces of paper. So we'll see how we go. I'm going to go back and I'm just going to delete a few of these flowers that I don't need. I'm going to do a background scan again. I'm going to make this flower slightly smaller because if it doesn't cut properly and it all goes horribly wrong, at least I can move it round the mat and try and cut it until we get success. So I'm going to take this one down to 2 inches, the others were 2.5, and I'm going to say okay, and I'm going to zoom in and zoom to 400% because you don't know if you're going to be able to see here, but my fabric comes to about here, so about 1 inch down. So I've got freezer paper, fabric, and then this down here is just the freezer paper, and I want to obviously get the flower within the fabric. So I'm just going to zoom in and try and position it. Okay, I'm going to say okay. I'm going to take my blade up on this one. I think I'm going to take it up to 5 and see what happens rather than increase the pressure. I want to get through it in one go. So I'm going to take the blade up to 5, leave the cut pressure on 4 and the speed on 5, and we'll see what happens. So any questions while this one's doing what it needs to do? I'm just going to lift up the freezer paper again and just see if it's cut through. And I can see that it has. So I'm going to unload the mat. It's not cut through the mat because you can see this is my mat that's all been taped up previously. So with the 5, that's gone through it without going through the mat. And here is the flower with the freezer paper on both sides. So if I peel this off, there's one layer. And if I can see to get the other one off, I'll show you the other one without the paper on it. I just can't see it to peel it off. There you go, got it. Phew. So there's the other layer of paper coming off. And there is my fabric cut perfectly with no iron-on backing. How cool is that? Now, there are other things available on the market that you can put onto fabric to cut without having to use freezer paper. I think there's something called Terial Magic, which I think makes it stiff, and then you can cut it and wash it and it washes out. I suppose it depends. It is good, isn't it? Yeah. I suppose it depends what you want to cut. I mean, if you don't mind, if you can get freezer paper, you know, readily in your shops, and you don't mind using, say, twice the amount, because obviously you're encasing it, if you know what I mean, then I suppose freezer paper's a good option. I think for me, for any projects I would use, Phyllis has just said she's got freezer paper from Amazon, I think she said, and it's a lot cheaper. Yeah, it probably is. I think in the UK, I've seen it in places like Hobbycraft, and they sell it in, like I say, the boxes, and it's got so much on a roll. I couldn't find it when I bought my freezer paper. I've had this years, so it obviously doesn't degrade because, as I say, I've had this an awful long time, and I've tried it in the past. You'll see I did a blog post a while ago using freezer paper, but I don't use it, so you know it's not deteriorated or degraded being sat in my drawer in my desk. I suppose it depends how much you're going to cut fabric and what you want to do. If you don't mind going to the trouble of spraying it all, letting it dry, and then cutting it and washing it out, then you know the sprays are an option. If you just want to cut fabric and you don't mind using freezer paper, then it's a good option. Alternatively, if you're using it for applique and you're going to stick it down on other fabric, then any of the other ones I've just shown you today, the Heat and Bond Ultra, the Heat and Bond Light, the Brother and the Wonder Under. Move the mat out of the way and I'll just bring them all in. There they all are. So you can see they've all cut perfectly. And, you know, taking this one down to 2 inches. 12 metres from Amazon is £4.44 including postage. Oh, brilliant. Well done, Phyllis. Thank you. So anybody that wants to try it, go and get on Amazon. You know, as I say, you can see I took this one down to 2 inches from 2.5 inches, and it's not affected the cut. So, you know, they're just alternative ways. I hope that was helpful. If you've got any more questions or anybody wants to make any more comments, let me know. While I've got you here, because I can see there's about 34 or so of you, I'm going to show you, this is going to be a little project that's coming up to my channel in a few weeks. This was cut with heat and bond, this applique. This is a pattern that's in your ScanNCut, and I showed you how I cut that and how to make this little coaster. And another little project is this zipper project, or I should say bag with a zipper pocket that's all fully lined. So that's going to be another project. And both of these, Glenda, thank you. Both of these started off from basic shapes within the ScanNCut. Will it work with freezer paper only on the back? I think I've tried it in the past. I think that's why I had the freezer paper. And yes, I think it does. If you go to my blog, and there's a link directly to my blog if you don't know about it, on my YouTube channel, and in the search box on my blog, if you type fabric, or even on my YouTube channel where you've got the magnifying icon on my channel, Jill, thank you, that's a search box. If you type fabric, you'll probably find previous projects. There's one on cutting felt that I've done in the past using heat and bond. That's on my channel. I can't remember whether I did just a blog post on the freezer paper last time with it just on one side, or if I did it on both. I honestly can't remember. But yeah, I can't see why not. I would obviously leave the backing, probably, I don't know, I was going to say I'd leave the backing on, but maybe you could try it. Just try it. Choose a small shape. Put the freezer paper on one side and cut 2 shapes, and, you know, cut one with the freezer paper left on the back and one without it. I prefer to take the backing off because I don't like the paper sticking to the mat. So that's why I always peel the backing off and put it glue side down. Plus, I think it gives a bit more of a grab. The glue that's on the back seems to grab to your mat better. Bobby, thank you. You're welcome. So yeah, just give it a go. Use the principles I've shown you today. As I say, do a test cut, because all the blades in the ScanNCut machines all seem to be set differently. So if I say mine's set at a 4, that might be a 5 on yours, or it might be a 3. Oh, thank you, Suzanne. That's really nice of you to say. So, you know, just do a test cut first. Maybe start with a 4 or a 3 and see how you go. Do the test cut shape. If that cuts, then go ahead and cut something bigger. Any other questions? Oh, what kind of material? This is just regular fabric material from a fabric shop. It's not like quilting cotton, it's just a poly cotton, I think, this. But again, if you look on my blog and on my channel, I've cut all sorts. I've cut Hessian, I think you call it burlap in the UK, in the US, sorry. I've cut Hessian, I've even cut thicker type fabric like this. This is a canvas type fabric, a curtain weight fabric. I'm loving your ScanNCut series. Oh, thank you. I also cut thin foam for flowers. Yeah, I've cut foam. When I cut foam from memory, I used heat and bond, I think ultra or light. And again, with foam, foam and felt, I've cut both using an iron-on backing. With felt, you just have to be careful with felt, because obviously felt is kind of like fluff, isn't it? And some felts are different than others. Some felts are stiffer to begin with, but I found with felt that I needed an iron-on backing. But try it with the freezer paper. You never know, it might work. I can't remember if I've done it with freezer paper. Any other questions? So before I go, I'm going to give you a quick peek at some other projects I've got coming up. I've just shown you the two fabric ones, the coaster and the bag. This is a project. You're welcome, Phyllis. This is a project that I'm going to show you how to make in ScanNCut canvas. That was my prototype. This is a card that's coming up again in a few weeks. I've already recorded and scheduled all these because I'm planning on having a holiday. This one could be used as a gift card because you can slide a card in there as well as just putting a greeting in there. So there are a couple of projects that are coming up. And as I said, for anybody that's just tuning in, the coaster and the bag, both of these started off as basic shapes from within the ScanNCut. And I made a template out of paper and then cut them out of fabric. So the ScanNCut can be used for anything. Just shows you how versatile it is. So I've been on for just under half an hour. So if anybody's got any other questions they'd like to ask me, I'll see if I can answer them. But if not, I think we'll wind this one up and put this down as a success for the machine today, I think. Lou, thank you, you're welcome. As I say, since I cleaned my mats and just cleaned under the rollers, everything, touch wood, has been fine with my machine. It was just playing up last week. Never had that on my other machine that I had for over 3 years, and I've never had it with this one until I came to do the live stream last week. But, you know, hey-ho, that's life. But I have been making all these kinds of projects in the last week, and as I say, I've got at least 4, I think, videos that I've recorded and scheduled, and I've made prototypes for them, so all done with the machine. So it's not that it's taken me a week to sort it out. I sorted it out there and then that day after I went off the live stream. Oh, thank you, Valerie. You love the live streams. Thank you. I like them. They're a bit nerve-wracking to do, I have to say. But I like them because, you know, providing I can see the comments on the screen, I can answer them. And I think they just make them a little bit more interactive, don't they? Maggie, you're welcome. Thank you. I'm glad you like the videos. I tend to do them during the day, as I've said before. Tend to do them maybe Tuesdays and Thursdays because they're the days that tend to be quieter for me in my house when I'm not working. I am going to try and do one maybe on a Saturday evening UK time, but I don't know when. But that won't be for a while, I don't think, yet, because I'm going on holiday soon, and that's why I've been doing all these projects and trying to schedule videos for you, so that even though you're not going to see a live stream for the next, there might be one next week, but after that there might not be one. I'm just trying to read someone's comment. It is good to be able to compare materials as well and get the best information, you're right. And that's another reason why I wanted to cut the same shape out of all the different products I'm showing you, so that we can see how they all compare. And equally, they've all cut just as good. So I think it's just down to what you can get hold of and personal preference and what you need. If you don't need to sew through anything and you want a project for, say, a garment, I would use Heat and Bond Ultra, because that's got a heavy amount of adhesive on it. You can iron it onto a fabric project and you can wash it and it stays in place. If you don't mind sewing, use one of the other ones. Anyway, as I was saying, there may be a live stream next week, I'm not sure, but then after that there's not going to be one for a few weeks because I'm on holiday, and that's why I've been recording lots of videos for you. So there will still be a video that comes up on my channel every Tuesday. It'll be just some of them have been pre-recorded for you. So I hope you found it helpful. Please give me a big thumbs up if you did. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you don't already do so. I know I always say this. Make sure you've got the bell notification icon turned on, and that way you'll be notified when I post a video or when I post a live stream. So I can't see any more questions popping up, so I think we'll call it a day now. I hope you've all enjoyed it. Jill, thank you for the thumbs up, that's great. And And hopefully, as I say, I may see you next week. If not, there is a video recorded for next week anyway already. I think from memory, it's the card I showed you on my blog a while ago. The Vivian, the card that was in the name of Vivian, which was for my new niece. I think that's next week's already pre-recorded and scheduled video. So thank you, and hopefully I will talk to you all very soon. Bye.